Alrighty, everybody. Hello, everybody out there in internet land. Hello, say hello, princess. You ain't. There we go. Princess says hi. How is everybody? How's everybody doing today? Oi, Zell, welcome in. Welcome in. It's great to see you coming in. Bam. All right, let's see what time it is. Sorry about being late. I cut myself while I was making tea and giving the cats food, so I had to at least like make the bleeding happen less. But there we go. Finally coming off this cold. Oh god, this after a week of hating myself. Ugh, god, getting over a cold, that's awful. Always hell. Hello, Ghostly. Jesus. Oh, my tea is still really hot. Okay. This is why I can't have sharp things. That's true. It's the cat food. I just wanted cat food. Not that one. Get rid of it, Twilight. Which one? Wait, what? Is it out of date? Wait, what? Did you send another one? What did Ghostly fix? What are you talking about? wait, the one you just sent me last time is already out of date? Is it? Wait, what? Okay, all right. Oh, there's kitties. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, all right. I didn't realize. I didn't realize there was an updated that we have updated. Okay, so I got the wrong one. All right. So yeah, for everybody popping in, we are going to be reading Ghostly's. I think we're going to be finishing Ghostly's Act 1 today. So today will probably be exclusively reading, mainly because I have a hard out at 5. So we're going to try to get through it. Ghostly rewrote a whole damn chapter. He's like, oh goodness, okay. The emotions were not emoting. Okay. Hey Bree, welcome in. So today, we're still gonna run the timer for everybody who wants to co-work along with us. But feel free to mute, or at least keep the volume low, because you will be hearing my voice for a majority of stream, I think. So hey, how's it going? It's going well. Excited. I'm going to a costume party tonight, kind of an early birthday thing, so I'm very excited about that. Hearing your glorious voice, right. The voice only lasts so long before I start to lose it. Is it longer, Ghostly? Because I know it's about you were averaging about, I think it was about 20 pages, which is a lot. But I felt like we could probably get through 20 pages. Why do you do this to me? Wait, is this Word again? Okay, yeah, it's a text document. Okay, it's not PDF. Okay, hold on. Are you actually text document? Are you actually going to give me page numbers, or are you just going to be no, you're worthless to me, is what you're going to be. You're going to be the least helpful program imaginable. WordPad. Thank you. Oh yeah, it doesn't even give me page breaks here. Jesus. Okay. That's what I get for not having Microsoft Word. Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, fun! I got my costume in the. Oh, you got a costume? I unfortunately once again am not gonna have a costume for a Halloween party. This has become a trend in my life where I'm desperately trying to get Halloween costumes. I wanted to go as Sanko from Die Dark. That's been the one I've been wanting to do. Or a hunter from Bloodborne, but it's expensive and I don't have the money to buy a costume or even make one right now. But that's awesome. You're going as an angel? That's great, Bree. With an angel, are you going to go out on Halloween, or are you going to like a party over the weekend? Oh, you have a halo and wings and they light up? That's absolutely delightful. I love that, Brie. That's amazing. Oh, hopefully you get to wear that to work. I'm sure your workplace will enjoy that. I don't know. It seems sweet. Are you gonna go with Ghostly? I am too old, and I'm also not gonna be that person who that. No one wants that person to show up to the party because all that person is just sitting there in tight leather, trying to look all hot, and then everybody's kind of like, "Oh God, the crow guy is here, or the crow lady is here," and they're just trying to get laid, and it's like a whole thing. So. It's a whole thing. Nobody, no, everyone will eye roll you if you show up. If you show up as the crow to a Halloween party, you gotta be more creative. If you're trying to be sexy, you gotta get more creative with it. You cannot just be the crow. It's old hat. It's literally been old hat since the 90s. If that doesn't work, okay, I'll just send the raw doc. Okay. I'm not sure if I get to go anywhere yet. Not sure, but the boyfriend wants to do yet. Ah, gotcha. Yep. But I specifically brought the costume for. Yes, perfect, Brie. I feel like that's a great costume for work. Okay. Let me. See, really, all I want is I just want the document. Hi, princess. Hello. Hello. I just want it to like give me page. Why do you not break? No, it's a WordPad thing. It's just WordPad being the literal worst. Ghostly. It's a WordPad thing. It's just not. I mean I might be able to change it. Let me see. But it's like I'd probably have to go into my settings and change it to like actually page break. Or maybe not. Maybe WordPad just is that bad nowadays. Because yeah, it becomes very difficult to kind of get a vibe for how many pages it's gonna be. All right, so we did 13. Okay, so we're on 14. Is there any settings on this that I can adjust? View. Word wrap ruler. Oh yeah, you just no page breaks. You're just gonna be that. You're that mean, huh? You are that mean to me, WordPad. Let's see. I figured it was perfect for my job. Yeah, I think so. Ghostly, you're cackling. This is a life hack, Ghostly. Keep that in mind. It's a life hack. If you, I mean, maybe because you're younger, you might be able to get away with. You're younger. Like maybe you could get away with the crow because I feel like younger audiences, like in your early 20s, people might not be as well versed with the crow, so maybe you could get away with it being like I'm a vintage thing, but people my age does not work. My age and older does not work. Glad someone agrees, but I keep telling everyone that I'm an angel, but no one believes me. I mean, that's how all Halloween angels are, isn't that the kind of the whole thing? Is like the angel devil kind of vibe, and which one's which? Do I need to copy and paste the whole thing into a Google? No. Don't worry about it, Ghostly. We'll just get as far as we can, and if we can finish it, we can finish it. If not, we might not be able to. We'll see how fast I read it. See, the bad gets chapter 14. The bad gets worse. Okay. Whoop whoop whoop. It's so bright. All right. Do. Let's bring you up. Didn't you say, Ghostly, that you were gonna go as like one of your characters for Halloween? Because I feel like that's like peak. I feel like that's what all writers should do, is go as like a version of their characters from their stories. I don't know. I get a kick out of that. I think that's I find that charming. Maybe I should have gotten black angel wings though instead of white. Yeah, you could do that. Yep. That's right. Yes, you're gonna go as Buttercup. Yep. But Buttercup from your story, not Buttercup from Princess Bride. I would be an FBI agent then if I was one of my characters. Oh, I mean, you could do that. FBI agent, I mean, the X-Files FBI was always the vibe, for sure. That was always the... let's see. Let's see if this is any better. Yes, it's fine. I can leave Discord. Ghostly, you gotta give me access. Yeah, you gotta give me access unless I can see the doc. I was thinking Buttercup from Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, when you said Buttercup. Oh yeah, I always forget about Powerpuff Girls. There is another Buttercup. There are many Buttercups. Let me see. There we go. There we go. Like how you named it second word pet. Okay. All right. Yeah, it worked, Ghostly. I know you do. I know you do. All right. Let's get down here. All right. According to Google Docs, it's 29 pages, Ghostly. You added 8 pages. Wait, what? Wait a minute. Oh, there's some formatting things here. Oh, hold on. There's formatting problems. All right. You know what? We're just gonna go through the WordPad doc. Yeah, the Google Doc. The Google Doc thing did something weird, and now I'm worried it didn't convert the text properly. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Ghostly. We'll just go off the WordPad doc. You're fine. You're fine. All right, let me close this really quick. And then we can get to it. Oh my god, why did... Oh, my whole side screen went wonky. Okay. Everybody watch as Wildlight figures out the computer issues. Alright. Okay. Okay. Alright. Alright. I will count them, damn it. You're fine, Ghostly. I'm sure it's fine. We'll see. Ghostly is in too much pain to deal with Google Docs' shit. I mean, I think none of us are in the mood to deal with Google Docs shit. It's why outside of storing things, I barely use Google Docs anymore. Or not even Google Docs, Google Drive. I pretty much use it as a storage compartment. Don't let the computer kick your ass, Wildlight. Computer kicks my ass every day. Okay, so you added 3 pages. Okay. You added 3 pages. Okay. All right. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if we can get through it. Okay. Hopefully you're not in too much pain, though, Ghostly. Hopefully it's not work/life related, although it usually is. Or it's more just a annoyance pain and not like you got. Hopefully you didn't get hurt at work. Oh God, physical. Oh God, sorry, Ghostly. Hopefully, whatever it is, if you got hurt at work or something, it eases up shortly. All right. It's fine. Oh, it's fine. This is existence. Yeah, that is the cruelty. Okay, we're gonna run ads. So everybody, 3 minutes of ads. So get up, stretch your legs, go ahead and get a drink, get comfy. And for those of you who want to stick around, we're going to read and try to get through the rest of Act 1 of Ghostly's Insults. So we'll go ahead and kick off with that here shortly. Ba-ba! All right, 3 minutes of ads. Let's go! I'm sorry, I'm being a grouch. Forgive me. You're fine, Ghostly. We're all grouches from time to time. You are totally fine being a grouch. We can all be grouches. You're not even being that much of a grouch. I mean, technology. Nothing brings out the worst in people than technology. I know this because I used to work IT, and when I worked IT at Geek Squad, Max started to develop a drinking problem. All right. Hi, princess. Okay. All right. We're running ads, and we're back from the ads. We will get started. Ghostly. What? What, princess? You're fine. You don't need. What do you need? What do you need? Okay. All right. Oh, Ghostly didn't sleep last night because of pain, and then had to work today. And the brain. Oh, I'm sorry, Ghostly. Are you sure? Do you want to do this today? Are you gonna be okay with that? We can do it. We can do it next week. I just want to make sure that the brain frog isn't gonna like affect you while we read through this. That sucks. You didn't sleep though. As someone who just got done with a bout of insomnia, I feel that. I feel that deeply, deeply and truly. No, no. I'm fine. Yep. I'm fine. We've got just under 2 hours to get through this, so we'll see. Just under 2 hours. Ghostly concern. You're getting concerned, Ghostly? Well, I'm not gonna break, like, kind of like if we finish a chapter before the break, I'm obviously not gonna do that. We're just gonna read through it. And then I'll save my comments for like when we do the 10 minutes off. But we'll see. I don't know how much I read the other day. I think I tried to calculate it out, and I think it was something like 15 or 16 pages. And I think we had like 5 to 10 minutes on both cases at the end of the sprint, I think. Close. Maybe just 5 minutes. But I tried to time it, Ghostly. I tried to time it to see how feasible it would be. 24 might be pushing it, but we'll see. Give me the Matrix. It'll be fine. Why is this ad so long? All the ads. Look at you, big math brain. Oh, Ghostly, there is no math happening here. This is just I'm always winging it. I'm just trying to suss out a rate at which I'm reading to the rate at which we can get this done. All right. Are we back? All right, everybody. We are back from ads. Okay. All right. We're going to dive in for everybody who wants to write. If all else fails, the last chapter can wait. All right. Sounds good. All right. I'm going to pour my tea. Let's top off the day. Hey, Patio Skunk, welcome in. All right. Here we go. All right. For everybody who is working and writing along, feel free to lower the volume, mute, whatever you got to do. But we will have the timer going so you can keep track of the time. There we go. Let me just bring this up. All right. All right. We're going to start our sprints. I'm going to be reading Ghostly's story out loud. So, and that is probably going to be what we do for the rest of the day. So happy writing, everybody. For those of you working, and for the rest of us, we're going to finish Act 1. I shall be lurking. All right, there we go. I'm just going to let you beat me to it this time, Ghostly. I got too much to do. All right. All right, happy writing, everybody, and away we go. All right. Ghostly picking up work and swap. Thank you, Ghostly. All right. Chapter 14. The Bad Gets Worse. Damascus forced his fist open to recirculate blood into his numbing fingers. With every passing second, the coil in his body squeezed tighter. The sight of the last man crawling out of the grate only added fuel to the growing fire. There were 4 men, all distinctly different, but all bound by a lifestyle that could be seen in their dark and tactical dress. Damascus met a familiar green gaze that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end, and his blood boil over with a freezing heat. Rorik. That's right. I had to remember that. Rorik. The word escaped him in a seething breath, a condemnation. A wolfish grin split the man's charming face in two. He ran a hand casually through his wave of auburn hair as his eyes tracked Damascus up and down like a meal. Oh, what a dramatic entrance, Ghostly. Just... All right, all right. Long time no see, old friend. Miss me? He spoke with the self gratification of a man who held the world in the palm of his hand, his casual step towards Damascus only cementing his confidence. Yep, yep, yeah. This dude's got vibes. Damascus's jaw twitched under the pressure of his teeth against each other. The pressure of his teeth against each other. He stood at the edge of the shelf, Buttercup idling just behind it, miserably confused. I don't know why, but this as a descriptor, miserably confused. I enjoy that. It also is a great description of Buttercup. How I feel Buttercup spends a large portion of her time so far on this journey. He didn't dare glance at her as he discreetly slipped his roped wrist behind his back, subtly pressing his side into the shelf. How did you find me? Rorik leaned back, his thumbs hooking lazily in his pockets. Oh man, he's a thumbs in, hands out kind of guy. Ugh, ugh, the worst. We've been we've been tailing since Orangetown. We've been tailing since Orangetown. We just weren't able to catch up with you until now, when you're slowed down. His sharp, shifting gaze traced the edge of the shelf he leaned against. Speaking of which, Rorik snapped his fingers, and one of the other men stepped up. He was the largest of the group, clearly the beef of the brood. Nice. His face was a cold mask to a mind that seemed to have no thoughts of its own. Tyran. I'm assuming Tyran? Tyran or Tyran? Tyran, watch him. Rorik ordered simply. Okay. Rorik ordered simply, his stare not leaving Damascus. Cowl? He nodded his head towards the shelf. Grab his new friend. Another man, clearly the youngest, nodded. He swallowed as he stepped up to the side of Damascus, a nervous eye traveling up the giant. In one swift moment, Damascus extended a hand in the gap between him and the wall, blocking the young man from passing. Cowl froze, his wide eyes inches from a bicep that was the same size as his head. Uh-huh. Yep. Big arms. Rorik sighed and shook his head with mild disappointment. Always the problem child. He waved his hand, and the large man Tyran was moving. Don't Yep. But that's none of my business. All right. Damascus didn't blink as the tip of the sword grazed his throat. Oh shit. Okay. Though he was shorter by about a foot, Tyran's even gaze rivaled his own in a silent, fearless challenge. The cackle just left me. Damascus huffed a breath, and with a crack from his taut shoulder, he lowered his arm. Cowl didn't waste a second to get past him. He tried to play off the haste as dutiful, but it was clearly driven by a desire to get away from the giant. Damascus didn't let himself look at her, forcing his eyes up to Rorik, stood comfortably with his smug smile. He could hear her shoes dragging on the stones and Cowl's mumbled reprimand to pick up her feet. He didn't see her as she was pulled around the corner, but the awful grin that grew on Rorik's face told him when she was beside him. He didn't see her as she was pulled around the corner, but the awful grin that grew up Rorik's face told him when she was... Got it. Okay, sorry. I stumbled on that. They're tied, boss, Cowl spoke up, taking the rope in his hand, confusion tilting his head. Rorik's smile turned quizzical as he looked at the rope. Interesting. His sickly amused eyes turned up to Damascus. You've taken to tying up ladies now, Damascus. Were you not satisfied keeping them locked away, so now you take on to go now? Damascus' jaw popped from his teeth fused together in the vice grip. His short nails dug into the palms of his paling fists. His eyes bore into Rorik, the threat as loud as words. Rorik didn't even bother meeting his glare, his roving eyes on Buttercup. Uncommonly pretty for an Oentine rat. He beckoned Cowl over to him with a finger. Oh, what a Dick. Jesus. Oof. Not even going to pretend to be the knight in shining armor. Just a scumbag through and through. Okay. Cal forced her backwards by the shoulders, and he stiffened, her whole body digging into the ground where she stood. Her efforts were for nothing as her feet stumbled before Rorik. Buttercup refused to meet his eyes, her tight scowl on the stones below her feet. A harsh hand gripped her jaw and forced her eyes up. "What's your name, wench?" She bit her tongue until a copper tang stained her mouth. Her glare was cold and unusually quiet. Her lack of fight only wound Damascus tighter. Leave her, Rorik. He seethed. Leave her, Rorik. He seethed as evenly as he could manage. This is between you and me. Not anymore. In one swift motion, Rorik wrapped an arm around her and pulled her back to his chest. It would have stayed just between the two of us if you had come willingly last time. But you ran, and now you've picked up this little number. Things are different, Damascus, and you are left with one last choice. He held tight on a squirming Buttercup, paying her pulling no extra mind. With his free hand, he drew a knife from the sheath on his leg. With a lazy hand, he drew the sharp edge of the blade across her throat. She met Damascus's eyes, and her cold mask slipped. There was a familiar fiery rage, but it was thin and flickering. Behind it loomed the real charge, a primal, freezing fear. It looked wrong and foreign on her obstinate face, rivaling the strong-willed fight he had only known from her. That snapped something in him. It's a great description, Ghostly. That's a fantastic, it's a really good description. I'm so mad. I reread this trash. I reread this trash 5 times, and I missed so many flipping spelling errors. Ghostly is floored. It's fine. Ghostly, that's just how it goes. That's natural. Don't beat yourself up about that. Proofreading is hard, particularly as you're the author, because your brain will literally pull tricks on you. You will read it the way you intended and not the way it is. That's just how the human mind works. So do not beat yourself up. That's why multiple eyes is a good thing. But great description. Absolutely, like really, really, really great job getting into kind of her headspace. So you're seeing it from Damascus's point of view, but I do really like that, you're showing something happen there. Damascus tensed to surge forward, but the sword at his throat served as a stinging reminder of its presence. The last of the men, notably the oldest, join Tyron, with holding a blade to Damascus, cementing him further in place. Sorry, wrong person. Rorik warned in a sing-song voice. He pressed the blade more firmly, tilting her head back. Move another muscle and lose the only choice you have, he warned, his voice dropping with the threat. Buttercup swallowed and closed her eyes, clearly trying to calm the raging storm within her. After Damascus remained taut in place, Rorik smiled. Good. Now, option 1. Come willingly and I won't harm a hair on her pretty little head. Or 2. Fight me, and we all get to admire the inside of her throat. Your choice. A redness rose in Damascus's sickly pale face. That's a dark-ass line, Ghostly. Admire the inside of her throat? That's some serial killer shit. Jesus. A redness rose in Damascus' sickly pale face, the fire of hatred slowly burning hotter. In a deliberately slow and reluctant move, he creaked down to his knees, his tense hands coming to clutch the back of his head. Rorik watched him drop with a superior glint in his eye. He loosened the knife on her and used the tip to direct her eyes to meet his. You see that? The man-eater of the South just surrendered for you. Isn't he the chivalrous kidnapper? She swallowed as her head lifted to him. Her eyes met his, and the hard edge in them softened. Are you going to take me from him? She asked in a shaky hush. Rorik laughed, the flat side of his blade stroking her neck in a soothing nature. Do you need shaving, sweetheart? Jesus Christ. Ugh. Yikes. That is gross. Her brows were furrowed with fear, her gaze pleading him. Saving. Oh, God. Are you, Okay, got you. Do you need saving? Sorry. I thought shaving. I was like, oh, God, Ghostly. He's like gonna skin her. Jesus. Okay, saving. That makes more sense. Do you need saving, sweetheart? Her brows were furrowed with fear. Her gaze pleading him. Please, I want to go home. Please, I want to go home. Damascus' stone-cold face fell. The tension in him went slack. The fire in his eyes dimmed under the strange feeling he didn't understand. He wasn't of the proper mind to question what the stabbing feeling through his heart was. He just knew something hurt. Oh, because he cares about her. And now he thinks that she thinks he's a monster. All right. Rorik shook his head with a disbelieving grin. He looked to the other men as if asking if they could believe it. You hear that, boys? She wants saving. Oh, God. I have a feeling this is going to get real worse. Real bad. He turned his wicked gleam back to her. He leaned in so his warm breath breathed over her forehead. Saving isn't really what we do, honey. Yep, there we go. There we go. But I think you're cute enough. I might just make an exception. Gross. Gross. Ghostly, that's gross. Alright. What you're doing is working, Ghostly, don't worry. But that is super, like, super gross, scuzzy. Ghostly, gag! Yeah, you're leaning into it, so well done there. You're eliciting the reaction you want. Rorik stowed his knife back to sheath on his leg. With both his hands free, he lowered them to her waist, holding her back to his chest. He leaned down and rested his chin on her shoulder, meeting Damascus' eyes with a disgustingly smug look. I told you this made me uncomfortable. I mean, it's functionally like it's really gross, man. It is like you're not being explicit, but like the emotions and the vibes and kind of the violation is kind of the same. It's pretty bad. So even though you're doing it in a very like clean way, you're not doing it in like a visceral, like he's getting like, not like sexual assault is happening, but it's like the vibes there. It functionally taking her against her will and threatening it almost. So you are making that work. You're just not leaning into it in a way that's like, I guess, fetishized or like too much. Yeah, I can see why it made you uncomfortable, Ghostly. I mean, it is. It's the same thing. He's being that kind of person. Rorik stowed his knife back to the sheath on his leg. With both his hands free, he lowered them to her waist. Oh, boy. Holding her back to his chest. Yep. He leaned down and rested his chin on her shoulder, meeting Damascus' eyes with a disgustingly smug look. Yeah, this is... Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's essentially, like, violating her personal space and then using it as, like, a power play against Damascus. Yeah. This is it is a trope, but it is a powerful trope. I think I'm going to be stealing your wench, Damascus. His awful grin turned down to the girl in his arms. If Damascus was the meal, then she was the dessert. Oh, that's that's gross. That's terrible. Terrible. Yeah, I mean, you're doing a good job being in his headspace right there. Buttercup kept her eyes low, avoiding Damascus's gaze no matter how much he besought her to look at him. That line makes me cringe every time. It's a cringe line, Ghostly, very much so, cringe line. But if you're gonna lean into his headspace, how this character is viewing this, then yeah, you have to remember that eliciting the reaction, it doesn't always have to be a good reaction. You just want to get it across. So, and you are doing that very well. Rorik sighed with a contented breath, as though he had been given the world itself as though he had been given the world itself on a silver platter. I hate it. I rethink that line every time. Yeah, I mean, it's I think my only note for that would be if you want to stay in like, it depends kind of what point of view and kind of what headspace you're trying to follow. I guess if you are doing kind of an omniscient, you're in everybody's headspace, then then like obviously this is how he sees it. I would maybe like lean into yeah. I mean the descriptions are subtle, but it is violating. Um, I've always been all over the place because I lack skill. No, 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 you're fine. You're fine. It's not that you lack skill. It's just you're doing a lot of complicated stuff. It's just trying to refine it. It's just refine, refine, refine. Doesn't mean you lack skill. You are very skilled, Ghostly. Um, if I was gonna keep this line, I would probably put it after something about him being like as though he had been given the world itself on a silver platter because now we know we are primed to be in his headspace here. So I would maybe put if you want to keep that line I would put it after that. That would be my note just because we've already given like yeah and it kind of is on theme the metaphor itself of like the meal the dessert silver platter it's kind of it's all that's you're still playing at the same metaphor. Um, okay. Tie him up, he said smoothly, his focus narrowing on Damascus again. Cowell pulled a rope from the pack on his back and fumbled it with shaking fingers. Rorik's smile died to annoyance like a switch that had been flipped. Gather yourself, Cowell, he snapped. Friar, help him, he sighed. The oldest man, Friar, moved to help the young man, taking one end of the rope and kneeling behind Damascus. Tyron, um, was like a stone sentinel, his sword set in the air at the giant's throat. Cal tensed up and quickly fell to his knees down, burying his mixed fear. Rurik watched the display with all smugness of a king, his hands holding lazily to Buttercup, though she possessed none of his attention in that moment. Yeah, this is all power play stuff. That was his fatal. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Okay, that was his fatal mistake. Oh, I like this. Okay. If Damascus blinked, he would have missed it. She had pulled the knife from the sheath between his leg with blindsiding speed. Before Rorik could properly possess what she had done, she spun around his loose hold and pressed the knife to his throat. She's kinder than literally anybody else in the world for pressing the knife. I'm pretty sure after something like that, I don't think it would be stopping with a press. I'm pretty sure it just would have gone in. His back slammed into the wall, one arm pinned beneath him, his other wrist gripped in her free hand against the wall, level with his head. Her scared doe eyes burned over in charred rage, her quivering lip to a thin scowl. Shock slapped the smugness from his face. As soon as the initial disbelief passed, he picked his jaw from the floor to grit his teeth. Move an inch, and I will be admiring the inside of your throat. Great callback. Great callback, Ghostly. She warned in a low, growled tone. Damascus's impartial face was all shock. He blinked a few times, convinced they must have knocked him out. But the scene before him remained. Buttercup had Rorik pinned, his knife in her hand. A shallow huff escaped him. A disbelieving smile tugged at his lip. The other men froze. Tyron didn't flinch, his eyes and sword still set on Damascus, while the other two were watching awestruck. A crooked smile cut up Rorik's face, but the rage was clear in his eyes. Well then, she's a tricky girl. Paint me impressed, darling. He looked down to her against the blade, without fear of leaning into it. He made no move to get out of her grasp, letting her hold him to the wall. Call off your dog, now, she seethed, pressing the blade to dent the flesh of his throat. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's just... So this guy's the grossest man imaginable, Ghostly. Gag? Yeah, yeah. She pushed her weight into him to hold him in place, her grip on the wrist tightening. His daring smirk didn't lessen as he tilted his head down closer to her face. Tyron, you heard the lady. He's a straight-up sociopath. Tyron's even gaze narrowed on Damascus. He huffed a wicked-smelling breath before tensely lowering his sword. Damascus took the opportunity to stand, pulling the loose restraint off his wrists and dropping it. Tyron's tense form lingered just before him, his razor-sharp eyes lingering where his blade had pointed. Cal and Freyr took a few steps towards Rorik, their hands twitching from their swords, but they kept their distance and didn't dare draw them yet. Any more requests, love? He asked tauntingly. I prefer the term masochistic sadist. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously he's definitely a sadist who's not afraid of pain. In that case, so he's like, yeah, or yeah. You could be like a masochist where they like pain being done unto them. But that's kind of like the I don't know. This is deeply, at least psychopathic traits for sure. Cal and Fred took a few steps towards Rorik, their hands twitching from their swords, and they kept their distance, and didn't dare draw them yet. Any more requests, love? He asked tauntingly, letting the blade dig into his throat. Her jaw clenched, her rage growing animalistic as he relished in it, which only made him enjoy it more. Yeah, that's the masochism side. He had burrowed under her skin, and she was beyond the control of digging him out. Keep smiling. See how long you keep your teeth, she spat. He leaned further, pushing his throat into the blade to be closer to her. His cold gaze bore into her soul, not even flinching as a dribble of blood rolled down the blade. Don't think... Sorry, this line will always be funny to me, Ghostly. Don't threaten me with a good time, dear. Buttercup's rage faltered. It was. I mean, he's gross, but I'll explain later why that line always makes me laugh. Buttercup's rage faltered. It was indistinguishable between disgust or fear, but the result was the same. Her hold loosened as she saw the blood that dripped from the neck paired with the twisted enjoyment in his gaze. That was her fatal mistake. In her moment of unease, he overpowered her. He kneed her in the stomach, and she stumbled back, coughing. His hands clammed around her wrist like a vice, eliciting a strained cry from her. I have no interest in reinventing the wheel. I like the wheel. It rolls real good. No, yeah, you don't need to. You absolutely don't need to. At all. The knife clattered to the ground at her feet. She was enveloped by the lean shadow that still clutched her wrist. Her gaze met his, but her previous rage was dwarfed with dawning fear. Before she could think to move, his free hand had crumb across her face and sent her to the cobblestone. Gross. There we go. Yeah, that tracks. That was cute, sweetheart. You really did try there. He stood above her, wiping his hand on his pants. He watched as she rubbed her reddening face, trying to cover up the burning fingerprints marking her cheek. But I would stick to wenching. You take hits better than throw them. Jesus Christ. Oof. Jesus, Ghostly. God. Her face lowered behind the cocoon of her hair, not wanting him to see the tears welling in hers. Yeah, you're... Jesus. Doing a real good job making us hate this guy. Damascus had a knife in his hand before any of the goons could move. The rage behind his eyes was blind. Nothing else existed aside from the tides of hate and the man they intended to crash on. Damascus's pinned sights were locked in on Rorik to the point he didn't notice the raised sword until the blade sunk into his upper arm. He tore his glare that could kill off of Rorik and whoever dared steal his focus. Tyron's sword dipped as it pointed at him. It was just a nick with the tip, like a matador waving a cape to draw the bull's attention. His unchanging stare met Damascus with a silent challenge that Damascus didn't have the control to deny at the moment. Boys, wrangle the demon, Rorik called, his sights still on Buttercup as the fight broke out before him. Look, escalation. Yeah, it's like you're doing a really good job of like shifting. Oh, I think, okay, here's how they get out, here's how they don't. Okay, you're doing a really good job, like, building the conflict. So, you're definitely, at least the structure of it is working really well there. He leaned down, yeah, okay. He leaned down to her small form on the ground, her face shielded by hair. He moved his hand to the tip of her chin. There was a thrill behind his eyes at the expectation of hers. His hand was still on her chin when he leaned in. With a pent-up energy, her fist flew at a sudden rate, striking his jaw with a sickening crack. Yeah, there we go. Sucker punch him in the face. Rowrick groaned as he hit the ground across from her. She looked up through the stands of her hair as she shook her aching hand, her watery red eyes glaring. Rorick managed a crooked smile as he rubbed his jaw, though it didn't reach his eyes. He laughed and shook his head. When his eyes rose, they were murderous. Wrong choice, sweetheart. Oof. All right. Chapter 15, A Blind Rage. Hey, like, that's a fitting title for the chapter, Ghostly. Okay. A Blind Rage. Damascus sunk his fist into Tyrant's chest until he felt the man's ribcage around his hand. Tyrant only stumbled back, a sharp breath being the first noise he made in the whole interaction. From the far side, or from the side, Frere, is it Frere? Or I doubt it's Frere. Frere swiped with a short sword. Damascus felt the cool air of the basement through his flesh, through the fresh slice in his tunic that missed his ribs by a hair. He met the man's eyes and knew in an instant. Oh, it's supposed to be Fryer? Okay, so it is Fryer. Okay. He met the man's eyes and knew in an instant. If Fryer wanted him hurt, he would have been run through. Yeah, like the Robin Hood character. Yep, Friar Tuck. Yep, gotcha. He met the man's eyes and knew in an instant. If Fryer had wanted him hurt, he would have been run through. Damascus didn't have the mind to question why he had given him a warning shot, but he didn't complain about it. Damascus' fist tightened. Oh, interesting. Okay. Interesting. Damascus. Yeah, okay, you're setting something up there. Okay. Nice. Essentially the why didn't you kill me right then and there thing. Damascus' fist tightened around his sword-breaking dagger. His eyes and weapon were set on Fryer, but his attention was on Cowl, attempting to creep behind him. The hairs on the back of Damascus's neck stood on end when he was within arm's reach. With a surprisingly quick speed for his size, Damascus sidestepped and reached behind him with his free hand, finding the gangly young man by the shoulder. Cowl's feet left the ground as he flew through the air, a scream escaping him. Nice. It's a good image. It's a good picture. It's like throwing him around like a ragdoll. His whole body collided with Fryer and sent them into the floor in a heap. Fryer's curses and grumbles faded into the background as Damascus turned his attention back to Tyrant, who had mostly recovered and was rolling his shoulders. Damascus planted his feet and waited for him with silent invitation. Nice. Okay. Buttercup's cage glare remained on Rorick as he stepped... Rorick as he stood on his knees, running a hand. Can you tell Ghostly hates combat? You're doing a pretty good job. I mean, I'm not getting lost in terms of, like, the blocking and what's happening in the combat. It's breezy. You're definitely not, like, lingering in the descriptions the way that you read when you read a lot of combat, where it's, like, you know, it kind of, like, you know, you kind of, like, lean into the beat-by-beat moments of the combat that keep it, like, thrilling. But it's that keep it, like, thrilling but, like, hyper-descriptive. You're definitely not being hyper-descriptive here. But that's okay. For now, I think, at least as far as we're going through it, I think that's fine. Buttercup's cage glare remained on Rorick as he stood on his knees, running a hand through his hair while he watched her pedal back on her hands. You're feistier than I gave you credit, wench. He smiled as he opened his jaw in a circle, eliciting a pop. I like it when they try to fight back a little. Makes things far more interesting. Gross. They all say that shit. That right there, Ghostly. I'm gonna call you out on that. That's a trope line for sure. 100% a trope line. The cold stone of Ghostly has skimmed every combat scene she has ever read. She would skip to the dialogue and make up the rest. Nice. That tracks, Ghostly. I could see you doing that. Okay. The cold stone of the wall chilled Buttercup's back as she pressed herself against it. Crawl in a hole and expire, she spat, looking up at him with all disgust in the world. He laughed as she slid up to his. He laughed as he slid up to his feet and took a step towards her. Watch your tongue, darling. I'd hate to see it removed. That's a good line. I like that line. It's very, very, you know, it's got a Shakespearean flair to it. I like that. She pushed herself to stand against the wall, using it to support herself. Her first, her fist, wheel rolls good like wheel, ghostly. Her first tightened at her side. Her fist tightened at her side, her body trembling from the tension that bound her. Tell me, wench, how did you come to know my target? Did he steal you away and convince you it wasn't so bad? What pretty lies has he told you to get you so loyal? Rorik's smile grew wider with every question, her quiet and rage expression only egging him on. You certainly would know a lot about sugar-coating lies. You certainly would know a lot about sugar-coated lies. She pushed off the wall to support herself. She forced her chin up to face him, her cheek still red and swollen. You're parading about as expert assassins from Evengo, when you can't even capture a lone man. His smile bittered to a scowl in an instant. Bold of you to say now, girl. Your demon isn't leaving this room unbound. He gestured with his hand at the skirmish to the side. Buttercup followed his hand to find two of the men struggling on the floor. Damascus was stood in a heated fight with Tyron, their blades clattering ambiently around them. The rope swung between them as the ever-present reminder of her situation. The freezing rage behind Damascus' eyes sent the ghost of a shiver down her spine. It was behind the stare that she saw how he could have gotten the title of demon. Nice. See, honestly, Ghostly, I don't think it's a bad thing to, like, if you focus on, like, the internal nature of a combat, like the internal life, what's going on inside emotionally, or in terms of, like, adrenaline, what's happening to them during a fight, I think you can kind of avoid... You still get the excitement of the combat without having to be, like, hyper detailed about every little tiny thing that's happening. So I don't think it's necessarily... I think your approach to action here it lends itself to the type of story you're writing anyway. So I don't think you should feel the need to, like, work outside of that comfort zone. I don't know. I feel like if you got hyper descriptive with combat stuff here, it would actually, like, bog the story down and also feel like a pretty large departure stylistically to kind of what the rest of what you're doing. At least the point of view and the approach to the narrative that you're taking. So, yeah, I don't think what you're doing here is altogether out of place. A sharp tug on her hair snapped her back to her own battle. Rorik's fingers curled in her hair and pulled her body back against his free arm shaking around her waist. Look at that monster. Do you really wish to defend that? Buttercup didn't let him finish. She threw her head back, nice, her skull connecting with his forehead. That won her a gasp and a groan from him, as well as a loosened hold. She was not done. Buttercup pulled out of his hold and spun around, her hands on his shoulders as she kneed him between the legs. That won her a scream. Ah, good. See, but then you do something cheeky like that, Ghostly. Then you when you do get detailed, you do something cheeky and fun and pay it off. So well done. Well done. That's nice. You whore, Rorik seethed as he crumpled to the ground, his hand holding where it hurt. Buttercup's scowl was unperturbed. She raised a foot to stomp his ribcage. Yeah. Tips a little top hat. Surprised she's stopping his ribcage and not, just doubling down where she hit last time. Stomp his ribcage when a sound made the air stand still. The creak of an opening door cut through the maze, and this is where we all suddenly remember that we're still in Max's. we're still in Max's, like, basement. That's very good. You dandy in here, lassie? I heard a clattering and a clanging. The accented voice of Max froze everyone in stone. Damascus and Tyron were both paws drawn back to strike. Cal was in the middle of pulling Fryer off the ground, and Rorik's face was turning pink from holding in pained noises. Every gaze in the basement turned to her, all eyes wide and thoughtless. Yeah, sorry. I dropped a few cans and they clashed against each other, she shouted, her voice ill-fittingly calm, contradicting her own wide look. If you break anything, it's coming out of your wages. Scats! The old man grumbled before the door creaked and slammed shut once more. Buttercup was halfway through a breath of relief when her feet got pulled out from under her. The stone floor remained as solid as ever when her shoulder rammed into it. A gasp of pain escaped her racking chest as she rolled on her back. She rolled onto her back as she fought to refill her lungs with air. Rorik was still writhing and muttering curses even as his hand was clamped around her ankle. Buttercup forced her skull off the stone just in time to watch him pull her towards him. She clawed at the stone to anchor herself, but it was in vain. He dragged her body across the floor until she was just before him. Rorik's shadow devoured her as he stood on his knees. He looked down at her with a look that could only be described as malignant. The cords in his neck defined under his flesh, traveling up to his bottom jaw that twitched under the tension. Though she deeply didn't want to see what she could feel was in his stare, she couldn't stop her eyes from meeting his. Yep. No fun. Hate, loathe entirely. Well, yeah, I can see why this was rough for you to write, Ghostly. This is definitely pushing some buttons that I'm surprised you're going there. So I can see why you were like, how do I write something I hate? Because you're being visceral about it. You're like being really, it's like you're leaning into it. So his knee came to press into her sternum as he shifted to pin her to the ground. Her whole frame tensed as her lungs squeezed under his weight. She tried to push away, to shove him off, but he was set in stone. His hands planted on either side of her head, his face so close to hers she could feel his scolding breath. I would have dropped you at the next tavern after I was done with you, Gross. You would have walked away unscathed. Yeah, right. He leaned in up until his lips hovered just above her ear. Ugh. Oh, yeah. See, that's going to get a textual vibe thing. That's like, I can't. That's like nails on a chalkboard to me. Ugh. People like whispering in your ear. Ugh. But not anymore. I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to make you wish I did. All the blood in Buttercup's body froze over. Her heart dropped from her chest like she was falling. This was terror, horror. The switch in her body flipped and her consciousness fizzled away to a primal fight or flight, and she had nowhere to fly. I mean, at least you're setting it up for, she can't fly, so she's gonna fight. Hey, number 13th, what's up? Hope your day is going well. We are reading Ghostly's story today for our writing sprints. You told me to do this. I did tell you to lean into it, so you're definitely, you make it visceral. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it turns dark, but you also prime it because you do start dropping some heavy things earlier in the story, particularly about her with physical, like being assaulted at her job. So, it doesn't come out of left field. You do start to set it up, but it does. This is intense. I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty intense. Damascus bit his tongue to hold in a cry as Tyron jammed his thumb into the gash in his shoulder. Tyron was behind him, holding his shoulders back to restrain him while Friar raised a sword to his throat. Cal was supporting himself on a shelf nearby, one hand holding his head. Damascus's face scrunched as Tyron's finger pierced his flesh. He took a shaky breath, forcing his focus straight through the pain. He took a heavy step back, away from the blade, pushing Tyron back with him. In an instant, he pivoted, using the man's grip on him to his advantage. Damascus grunted as he swung Tyron's body into the blade, knocking it out of Friar's hand and sending it clattering to the ground. With the same momentum, Damascus doubled over, throwing Tyron's weight over his back before throwing him to the ground. Damascus strangled his response to Tyron's finger getting yanked out of his shoulder. All right, and we will stop there. For the break. All right, down timer for everybody coming back from their writing sprints. I hope it was a productive sprint, and the words went well. Welcome back. All right, Ghostly, do you see why I need help? Okay. I mean, I'm not... Oh, wow, we almost finished that chapter. Okay. I'm not, like... It's definitely... I can see how it's out of your wheelhouse, for sure. It's... Yeah, but you're not, like, missing it. You're not completely out of... I don't think it's completely out of left field. I mean, maybe for you and what you're used to writing, but I've read I've read attack sequences that are far more um, visceral and violent than this. Um, so I think the weird thing, the one thing I will say is like early on, and this is a true thing. This is a thing, particularly with villains, depending how bad you want to make these villains. They do this is a trope. It's a trope that has been used to very powerful effect. Using essentially like that it's a power trip. That's really what this is about. It's about their ability to essentially enforce their will over others, and make others essentially like completely submissive to their, like a plaything essentially. And it's clear that he's doing that. He's doing that to Damascus, but he's using initially he's using Buttercup to that effect, because that is kind of the power trip that's happening. But as you have Buttercup fight back, and then his focus kind of becomes more on her. The one note I will say is this might be like, it might be too intense, but like I would maybe trim some of the descriptions of Damascus's fight and have it take place in the periphery, because I don't actually have a lot of emotional investment, because Damascus is a beefcake who can fight. But really where I'm at the edge of my seat in this whole chapter is with Buttercup and Rowrick, particularly when Rowrick is now like, his focus has turned to Buttercup. It's like he doesn't even care about Damascus. It's more like he just wants to, at this point, he just wants to kill Buttercup, or or worse, So that's kind of my take, is like what the stuff that's hitting me and keeping me like, every time we go back to Damascus, I kind of like, I'm not as engaged, because the stakes seem, I guess the stakes just aren't quite as, they're not hitting me as hard as the one with Buttercup. Also, I think you shouldn't be afraid to have Buttercup rough this guy up a little bit more, but maybe you're already doing that. Like, you might already be building up to her roughing him up a little bit more. But I do kind of, interesting, I can see that. I haven't thought about that. Yeah. I mean, because he's the action character. But, like, kind of the way you described, kind of when, like, Buttercup looked over, and just the way you would kind of describe just this sort of, essentially like a flurry of blows kind of thing. Like, there was a chaos of combat taking place. That's honestly what I would do there. And maybe just get the big points you want to get across in like single sentence descriptors, and then kind of keep it on Buttercup. I also think it would be a better departure from quote unquote the tropey stuff if you kept it on Buttercup, because a lot of it will focus on the male character who is the combat character. That's going to be where like some people would think that it would go, and I actually think it's stronger if you just stick in her point of view, and just see the Damascus fight from her point of view. That would be my only note so far. So far, that's what I got. Other than that, I mean, aside from some awkward phrasing, and kind of just cleaning it up, I mean, it reads, it's quick. The Max disruption is great. You manage to get some humor in there. It's heavy. I mean, it's definitely heavy. I am gonna call you out definitely for the one line. There is that one line that is in like every, if you want a guy who's just gonna threaten violence upon a woman, they always say that line. They always say that line. It's the nails on a chalkboard line for me. But Ghostly, shh, it's fine. But I am gonna say I hate that line. The other line that makes me laugh, I feel like I have to qualify that. That line is from a reality TV show called Rock of Love, where a bunch of girls are trying to hang out with God, is it from Poison? I think it's from the lead singer of Poison. And there's one very drunk girl at the very beginning of the third season where she's like super hammered when they're doing the interview, and she just keeps saying, "Don't threaten me with a good time." Every time they like are like, "Please stop Or Rock of Love. Yes, it's from Rock of Love. Um, it's hold on. Yeah. Oh, is it a Panic at the Disco song too? Isn't I'm pretty sure that she's what she says. Yeah, it's but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a line from oh, maybe I'm misremembering. I'm almost positive that's from Rock of Love. But it's specifically I think the third season. It was definitely the season that no one cared about the show anymore. That's season 1. What is the I think it's like yeah, I think she says don't threaten me with a good time. God damn it. Come on. Oh, YouTube, you suck. Come on. Come on. Maybe it just gets I mean there's clearly a Panic at the Disco song. And that's clearly where she gets it, but I will always remember it from Oh, is it season 1 episode 1? Is it the first season? I could have sworn that was the third season. But anyway, yes, that's the reason why I giggle at that line. such a fucking insane show. I love that. I thought that line existed since the dawn of time because that's just an iconic line. It is an iconic line, but that show may have ruined that for me forever. Um, wait. Let's see if I can find. But yeah, it's one of those. But anyway, that's what I was thinking of. So sorry. Yeah. See, Ghostly's own vernacular ends up with her writing too much, and she's the one, and that's one of her go-tos. I gotcha. I see. Uh. Okay. Okay. All right. While I figure this out, we should probably do ads. All right, we're gonna run ads, everybody, before we start the next reading session, and while Wildlight figures out where that line came from in Rock of Love. It's like that's yeah. Oh, by the way, I heard you say Panic at the Disco. Hey, Macy Paul, welcome in. It's because we were talking about Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time, which is, but I'm also like, I get there's a panic. I bet you that's actually what she's referring to is the Panic at the Disco song, but I for whatever reason will always associate that line now with Rock of Love. But that is how Panic at the Disco got brought in. All right, we're gonna run ads. Stretch your legs, everybody. Get something to drink, and then we will meet back here in 3 minutes to keep on reading Ghostly's story. So we'll see you all back here shortly, and here we go. Running ads. I'm losing, but Rock of Love, yes, Rock of Love. Rock of Love was a thing that I didn't watch a ton of reality TV shows, but my ex was obsessed with it, so so I got turned on to it through her, and it's so iconic. That show is so fucking great. Um. Oh, is this your story? No, don't say regretfully ghostly. Stop that. It's a great story. Everybody loves it. It's why we like reading it. Okay, all right. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it's one of these. This show is so fucking crazy. Whoa. Yeah, it's her. Okay, it's her. Later haterade. Amazing. Okay. Later haterade. It's so good. Yeah. Okay. I got eliminated for... Okay. Full saltine. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, god damn it. Where is it? No, where's the line? It's definitely in there. Wait, is it the beginning here? It might be. Ain't no busy get up. It might be. Good lord. Uh. God damn it! I know it's her. It's that. It's the really drunk lady. I know she says it at one point. She literally says, "Don't threaten me with a good time." I know it for a fact. Ugh. I thought that's just how they made the show. Oh my god, this is an edit. I mean, Ghostly, you're not far off. That is exactly how that show looked. Oh, Bret Michaels, you fucking weirdo. Bret fucking Michaels, man. This is way too much information, but for a long I don't know why someone did this to me. I am not friends with them anymore, but they just randomly dropped. They were like, "Hey, you should check something out," and just showed me, and it was the Bret Michaels sex tape. And I was like, "Why would you show that to me? I don't need to see that. I don't need to see any of that." Anyway, all right. Someday I'll find it and I'll post it in the Discord, and I will feel validated. I will feel validated, and like I didn't just totally make that up, because I'm almost positive that I did not make that up. All right. All right. Maisie Buck can't unsay. Yeah, man, no one wants. Yeah, it's Bret Michaels. Are you kidding me? Like, at least give me someone attractive. If you're gonna do that crap to me, give me someone who's at least good, like, pleasant to look at, not like sweaty, like way too old 70s or 80s hair metal Bret Michaels. Ugh. And like every scene in that show where they just cut to him and he's just like outside, like pumping iron, and he's just like, yeah, man. It's like that man is like near dead all the time too. I actually kind of feel bad in that ways, because I know he's a diabetic and he struggles with that. But it's like, maybe don't drink and party like a lunatic. Anyway. No. Mason, you warned us, right? You wouldn't just drop that into the... No, I would not just drop that in the Discord. No, I'm not going to drop just a Bret Michaels sex tape into the Discord. That would be very funny, though. It's just like, why? Like, what are you doing? You've gone mad. Oh, no, I swear, I got hacked, everybody. I got hacked. He was a hacker. All right, wait, let me find our spot here. All right, there we go. All right. Okay. All right, we're going to start the timer. So everybody who is writing along, I hope the words treat you well, and we will. I would schedule an intervention. Yeah, exactly. I'd fucking need one. Just lost my goddamn mind. I got hacked, but I got hacked, but what'd you think? No, I swear, I got hacked, but what'd you all think about that? That's so weird and scuzzy, Jesus. Okay, all right, we gotta get, if we're gonna try to get this done before 5, we gotta get to it. All right, everybody writing along, I hope the words reach you. And they are. It is a good sprint. For the rest of us, we are going to keep on reading Ghostly's tale. All right, happy writing, everybody, and away we go. Do 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 do. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ghostly. Thank you, Ghostly. Okay. Damascus snatched his sword breaker from the ground where it had been previously dropped. His chest heaved as he raised it, facing the three men before him. Friar had also retrieved his weapon. Cal stood shakily behind him, his own knife drawn, and Tyron was on one knee. He growled as he looked up at Damascus, blood streaming from his nose that had evidently met the floor. Damascus shook his wounded arm, a splatter of blood dripping down to the floor. His frame tensed to attack, but a scream stopped him short. His gaze tore from his opponents so fast that the world turned off kilter. In the dark of the storeroom, Rorik perched atop Buttercup, his knee pressing into her chest. He was screaming in agony. One hand held his left eye, blood seeping past his fingers. Oh man, I am 100% on. If Buttercup pulls out his eye, I am so into that. That makes Twilight happy. I am definitely a fan. Buttercup was heaving air, her eyes wide and wild. Blood coated her fingers, caking under her nails along with a few eyelashes. Rorik writhed off her and on the floor. His teeth punctured his lip. Oh, nice. Hardcore. Hey, Ghostly, Chapter 15, Blind Rage. There you go. Makes sense. Rorik writhed off her to the floor. His teeth punctured his lip as he bit down on his cry. Damascus watched as Rorik raised his head. Blood stained his face, one good eye blazing. Tyron, he sputtered, blood from his lip. Kill her, now. Rad. I'm just gonna take a beat and be like, fucking rad, Ghostly. Rad. Way into that. I mean, we all know I'm partial to that kind of thing, but yeah, rad. Dare we say gangster? Yeah, that's a gangster move, yo. Gangster move. Hell yeah. Chapter 16, Actions and Consequences. Buttercup's shock hadn't subsided when Rorik fell off her. Her ribcage trembled as it was freed, her lungs unable to refill even with the room. She was fairly certain Rorik was speaking, but she couldn't hear him over the ringing in her ears. Her wavy tunnel vision fell on her trembling hand, her fingers slick with the man's blood. She could feel him under her nails. Nice. That's a gangster move, yeah, while referring to clawing people. Yep. Log it. Log that one. That one and Ghostly calling me a capitalist pig. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So I don't forget. Okay. Where is Opera Soria? Opera Soria's busy. Opera Soria's got a life. Gotta do stuff. Unfortunately, you know. But no, Opera Soria. I'm pretty sure Opera Soria's running around today. Let's see. Also, that's also like her fingers slick with a man's blood. She could feel him under her nails. That's a textile, visceral description, Ghostly. It's very good. Very good. Movement out of the corner eye caught her slow, clipping attention. At some point, she must have sat up, for she was upright as her eyes drifted towards to find Tyron. Tyron had turned to her, his tall, dark frame stepping towards her. Her head tilted up to face him. The hard, tired look had been stripped from her, leaving only a soft, dull dissonance behind her stare. Nice. Thousand-yard stare. Or what they call staring into the middle distance. Her mind was a still expanse of water. As she met those thoughtless, robotic eyes of Tyron, only a ripple of thought disturbed the smooth surface of consciousness. Nice. Great descriptions, Ghostly. These are great descriptions. I'm about to die. Something settled in her heart. Maybe it was acceptance. She wasn't sure. But whatever it was, a cool calm wrapped around her soul. The vague memory of her siblings, sweet faces, and the feel of her mother's hand rocked her anxieties to rest, pushing down the pang of regret and disappointment. She knew they would forgive her. They would find a way to live without her. They had to. Nice. Very good. Very good. Nothing else existed as Tyron stepped up to loom over her. No screams from Rorik, no rope that swayed from her wrist, no loud sounds of a struggle. Tyron raised a meaty hand to her. He intended for her throat, but it paused. All of him paused. He looked down at himself, and Buttercup followed his eyes. In the shadow of his chest now protruded an inch of sharpened steel. A sickly wet gasp escaped his lips. When he looked back up to her, his eyes were empty. Tyron's limp body fell to the ground in a heap. In his place was a new figure. Damascus stood as a dark spire through the room. His gaze was frozen solid, a wall of ice holding back a molten core. Oof. Very good. That's great. Oof. Talk about evocative. That's a great description. There was no hesitance in his eyes, no repentance to crease his smooth brow. He was cold. He was unfeeling. In that moment, he was not who she was starting to think he was. Her consciousness snapped back. The world around her hit at full force. The still water of her mind destroyed by a hurricane of stimulus. The noise of the world split her ears. Rorik was yelling, screaming at his men to act. Both Cal and Freyr were not where they had been standing. When did they move? Oh, they didn't move. They were at opposite sides of the storeroom. Cal's body was indented in a broken shelf, groaning as it stirred. Freyr was on the ground by the wall, struggling to push himself up on his hands. Damascus took a step towards her, stepping over Tyron's body, and she was reminded of the man who had done it all. Her eyes shot up to him, her throat running dry as he met her stare. She pedaled back from him on her hands. She didn't realize she was scared of him. Her instincts were shot, and she was running on adrenaline alone at that point. Anyone that looked in their eye was a threat. It didn't matter if they had just saved her life. Damascus's cold stare faltered with something she didn't have the mind to question. As soon as it appeared, it was gone, and his look froze back over. He leaned down swiftly and gently, took her in his arms. Buttercup tensed, her breath catching in her throat as she pulled against him. Her primal brain did not recognize this man as the same one who had given her an apple and spoken so softly to her brother. This was a killer. This was a man without remorse. Okay. She squeezed her eyes shut and pushed his chest away, but his hold was firm. She felt anxiety flare in her stomach. Her fist clenched to fight, but something gentle gave her pause. His voice was quiet, just above her ear. I will get you back to Demi. That name penetrated her survivalist state of mind. Though her consciousness still raced, and her shoulders were still tied with anxiousness, her fist released, and she didn't fight him. She squeezed her eyes shut as they moved. She didn't want to see anymore. Rorik's screams filled her senses. For this you will both suffer. Sleep with one eye open, Damascus Drake. His voice trailed off as the wind rushed into her ears and her stomach plummeted. Her body racked as Damascus' feet hit the ground, and the cold of the tunnels embraced them once more. She hit her face into his shoulder to shield herself from the wind as he took off in a dead sprint. All right. Yeah, it's a short chapter, but it's a great chapter, Ghostly. The descriptions in this are almost perfect. No notes on that one. I would pretty much say in terms of description, kind of your description of the emotional state of the characters. Yep, I'd say it's a good place to put it. All right, are we getting there, Ghostly? This next one. All right. This is my ugly baby. Okay. Understanding amongst chaos. Is this the last chapter? Rewritten 3 times? Oh, no, there's 18. Okay, got it. All right. Damascus was out of breath by the time he hit the tree line. He hadn't allowed himself a moment of thought. All of his energy, all of his focus was on getting out and away. Only when he was enveloped by nature once more did the wave of exhaustion hit him. The last fumes of adrenaline dried up and left him slowing significantly. The weight of his arms shifted, sliding out from under his hands and onto her own 2 feet. He had almost forgot he was carrying her. He blinked as he was snapped back to the present, and his eyes met the messy hair at the back of her head. He swallowed a heave of breath as he took a deliberate step back away from her. "Are you hurt?" His voice was thin, and he tried to play it off as just breathlessness. His finger ran back through his hair as his gaze petered to the grasping branches of the tree tops around them. "No." The response was nearly stolen by the breeze. She didn't move from where she stood, still looking into the forest. Damascus closed his eyes, his shoulders slumping with tired defeat and silent acceptance. "The bridge is burned," his mind murmured. He sighed and rubbed his face. "We need to get further away from here. I know a place we can make by nightfall if we start now." She didn't respond. She didn't look at him. She just waited. Damascus's lips thinned to a hard line, but he also chose silence. Without another word, he led her to the trees. Seconds turned into minutes, and minutes to hours with every blink of the eye, or so it felt. Even though the day was pleasant, and beneath the trees it was cool, a heavy tension dampened the air. Damascus didn't allow himself to look back at her. It was only the crunch of leaves under her boots that he knew she was still there. Though she couldn't get far if she tried. They walked on like that until dusk. Damascus was beginning to question if he had misremembered when the trees cleared for a dried riverbed that scarred the land. A decrepit watermill still clung to the bank beside it as a ghost of what once was. Solid descriptions. It was vacant last time I was here. I imagine it still is, but stay behind me just in case," he said without taking his eyes off the structure. He took her silence as agreeance and jumped into the dirt bed. The front door was only hanging on one hinge and was missing the handle, but it still kept out most of the draft. Upon vague inspection, the structure was still uninhabited. It was exactly how he had left it before, though with an extra layer of dust. Damascus had started a fire in the main room in the same fire pit he previously made. As the sun cast its final rays of goodbye through the broken window, they were sat before the fire, eating jars of peaches. Oh, I mean, at least they got food. Silence usually never bothered him before. It was something he too regularly found himself in to disturb him. But this silence was different. It wasn't restful. It was quiet. And though the air around them had sharpened and every breath prickled his lungs, the hairs on the back of Damascus' neck stood on end. With every bit of his mind, he knew there was no threat in that room with them, but that didn't stop his heart from hammering or his palms from sweating. Something tight squeezed his hands. Pins and needles of anxiousness stabbed at him to break the silence until he could bear it no more. "Are you..." He cleared his throat, his voice rough from lack of use. "No." Her crisp words shattered the looming quiet. "I'm not." Her head was low. She hadn't even opened the jar of peaches. She just looked at it with a stare Damascus could not see behind her hair. Damn it. The curse bit the inside of his mind. This was his fault. All of it. His lips thinned over his teeth as his eyes cast downwards, unable to look at her as he whispered, "Thea above, I'm sorry." She shook her head, her hand clenched around the jar. "What are you?" she demanded suddenly through her thickened throat. A shock split down his body. In the same instant, his brows ticked together at that. His gaze flicked up to her. "Excuse me?" His tone softened with bewilderment. "What are you?" She swallowed. Her head tilted up to face him. In the warm firelight, her cheeks glowed with wet streaks. Her eyes were bloodshot, and any mask she had previously held was gone, leaving her miserably torn consciousness on full display. His throat closed at the sight. A cold, anxious sweat prickled his body. I'm Damascus, he answered, though his certainty in the statement was flimsy. Are you a man or are you a demon? Her trembling voice tightened with the severity. She put down the jar and leaned forward, her hands clutching her skirt. Damascus's heart stopped, an ache shooting through it as though it had tripped. I am a man. Those words were certain. His brows were furrowed with the need for her to believe him. I am flesh and blood and bone. Just a lot of it. She took a thin breath, her knuckles whiting on the folds of her dress as she forced the question that plagued her since their fateful meeting in the basement. Should I fear you like I fear so many others like you? Her shining eyes besought the answer from his very soul, stripping past all the layers of stoic coldness to his essence beneath. No. The word drew from him without it crossing his mind. I have never harmed anyone who didn't threaten my life. Please, say it, she breathed. His hand clenched at his side, and he forced his eyes to stay on hers. The coldness I possess will never be directed at you. I will not hurt you. May Thea strike me down first, he swore. You're terrifying, she confided. The fear that still lingered in her stare made him wish for Thea's warmth. I know. Damascus let his eyes fall from her to the fire, a long look of resignation behind his stare. I'm sorry you're here with me. I'm sorry we ever crossed paths, and now you must shoulder my burden. You shouldn't have gone through that. It was never meant for you. Oh, Thea's wrath. Got it. Sorry, not warmth. Got it. Thea's wrath. The silence that passed stung. It didn't hold all the charged anxiety as before. It was numb and raw and without a sense of direction to escape. I had almost died today, her whisper ghosted through the ears to haunt his heart. I watched the light leave a man's eyes today. He squeezed his eyes shut, letting the barrage of guilt devour him. Because of that, I still breathe. Surprise fluttered his eyes open. The heaviness that suspended over his soul now hung by a thread of those words. I still live to maybe see Demi and Hayward and Ruby again. Thank you for that. Something Damascus did not recognize stung his eyes. His sight blurred over and he blinked to try and clear it. Something wet dribbled down his cheek and dripped from his chin. He looked down to see a dark speckle that stained his pants. Tears? His thoughts spoke, disbelieving even his own mind. What has she done to me? Ah. Okay. So he can't even show emotions. This stoic and cold through and through. Okay. I would do it again. The words fell from his tongue with a certainty he didn't have to think about. You will see your family again, or I will be damned. Even Damascus didn't understand how he was so resolute. Why he needed it so badly. But the desire to see her back home safely was powerful. A mission carved along with dwindling lists of reasons to see the next sunrise. Nice. It's good. That's a good line. His eyes found hers, and they had changed. The fear was gone, but there was something else he didn't recognize. He didn't know what it was, but it seemed less. Bad, if nothing else. She shifted. That look in her eyes traveled into his shoulder. You're hurt, she spoke quietly. He glanced over to his shoulder that he had almost forgotten about, the stench of pain at back of his thoughts. I've had worse, he said passively. There we go. Now we're back to him just being like, it's just a flesh wound. He glanced over to his shoulder that he had almost forgotten about. There we go. Buttercup shifted her feet under her and stood shakily, wiping her tacky tears off the back of her hand. Don't you give me that. This is like, yes, now tend to the wounded beast man. While he shrugs it off like, it doesn't hurt. It's a small thing. Sorry. Buttercup shifted her feet under her and stood shakily, wiping her tacky tears with the back of her hand. Take your jacket off, she spoke. taking a slow step around the fire that separated them. It's fine. It needs stitching. She came beside him, her fingers gently pulling at the rip in his trench coat to see the damage. And it's at a place it would be hard for you to do it yourself. I'd like to see you reinvent the wheel. She scoffed softly and pulled the small pocket sewing kit from her bodice. My family is poor and I have 2 younger brothers, she said simply. Point taken, he breathed. His head lurched down as he waited for the familiar pain. His teeth fused together as he felt the needle. It didn't take long for him to decide it hurt more when someone else did it, never knowing exactly when or where the pain will shoot from and being unpleasantly surprised. Wait, I did? What? Oh, I did, sorry. He tensed under her touch, but acceptance quickly relaxed his shoulders. He sighed, his energy drained, passing the point of arguing. He winced as he slipped the coat down his arms to pull at his elbows. Do you even know how to stitch? She scoffed softly and pulled the small pocket sewing kit from her bodice. Yeah, my family is poor as 200 where she said simply. Point taken, he breathed. His head lurched down as he waited for the familiar pain. His teeth fused together as he felt the needle. It didn't take long for him to decide it hurt more when someone else did it, never knowing exactly when or where the pain will shoot from and being unpleasantly surprised. Yeah, there we go. I was like, okay, that makes sense now. I mean, you could probably get away with just the, my family is poor and I have 2 younger brothers. Anyone knows that anybody in that situation is probably going to be a good seamster. Damascus shifted slightly, his fist clenching and unclenching at his side. Don't squirm, she paused to gently reprimand. I'm not squirming. He tilted his head back to glance at her, out of the corner of his eye. I'm expressing my discomfort. He tried to smile, but it didn't quite come out right. Buttercup must have seen the effort. For the smallest hint, a smile drew up her damp cheeks. Well, express your discomfort another way, princess. That's good. It's a good line. Though her voice caught on a few of the words, there was an attempt at humor in her tone. His brows nodded, the tensity in his shoulders loosening with the distraction. Princess? She continued to stitch, her eyes on her work. Yes, more fitting than a demon, I think. That's good. That's good. He huffed, a non-intentional smile properly gracing his face. How do you figure? His free hand scratched the fabric of his pants. There is nothing to figure. It's simply the truth. Her hands moved with a well-acquainted swiftness, reconfiguring the skin with even taut stitches. I look like a princess to you, he scoffed. The very image. He shook his head to the floor, not even realizing the teeth in his smile. You little witch. Aw, that's they're starting to get cutesy vocabulary with each other. It's funny. How do you figure? She shot back, a touch at her familiar wit, putting some warmth back into the downtrodden room. He glanced up at her, though this time he did the smile right. Don't you do it. I mean, I'm not the one doing it, Ghostly. You're clearly the one doing it. But it is cute. It is cute. It is cute. Let's see here. How do you figure? She shot back, a touch of her familiar wit putting some warmth back into the downtrodden room. They're becoming friends. Mm-hmm. Yep, and they're getting cute nicknames for each other. He glanced up at her again, though this time he did the smile right. They're the ones that talk to me. That's funny. That's a good line. She tugged the stitches closed, eliciting a wince from him. I suppose I can't argue with that. She wiped the blood off her skirt before cleaning the needle the same way, sitting beside him. Damascus took a deep breath, letting contentment wash over the looming anxiety for the first time in a long time. Something warmed in his chest, and he didn't think it was the fire. He knew things weren't fixed. He still saw the way her hands trembled as she wiped them off, and how her eyes lingered on the blood. Within himself, he could still feel the gnawing of guilt and the bitter pang of hatred for himself, for Rorik, for the witch, for the world. But in that moment, as they sat there together before the fire in the abandoned mill, some kind of new understanding born. Things were at least okay. We should sleep, Damascus said quietly. We have a long road ahead of us. All right. Chapter 18. Let's see here. Okay. I think we can finish it. I mean, we're speeding through it a little bit, but I think we can finish it. All right. I can see why you rewrote that chapter many times. You do a really good job of building up the tension at the beginning of it, and kind of the sort of post, sort of traumatic, almost like the in shock element of the experience. So you do a good job with that. And them kind of confronting each other in that moment. And definitely hinting at his sort of self-guilt and kind of hatred of the world. You do a good job. You do a good job of letting kind of that ugly stuff rear its ugly head, or rear its head a little bit. There's so much ground to cover. There's a lot going on there. Definitely a lot going on there. I mean, in my personal opinion, I think you could go even a little bit deeper. Not so much in what they say to each other, but just in their internals, their like emotional state. You definitely write it from Damascus's point of view, where he's like struggling to understand what she's feeling, and even she's probably understanding what she's feeling. But I think you could go deeper. But other than that, like, you do a great job doing it. You move through it pretty well. So no complaints from me. It's a lot of ground, but you get there. And you're doing a really good job of like really building their relationship. Like, you are slow burning their relationship, and I think that's, you don't see that very often. I think people tend to try to like rush it. Like rush kind of like, okay, they're best friends now. Okay, like we just, you want to get there. You're doing a really good job of like really letting this stuff kind of play out very naturally, very humanistically. So I do appreciate that. I think it's a wise decision. I'm sure some people might get impatient with it, but I think it's more natural. It definitely feels more real that way, particularly when you introduce violence like that. I'm always very appreciative of stories that do show the repercussions of violence as a traumatic event and linger in those moments, to like really process what happened. Because violence, even in like fantasy stories, because violence tends to be so much of like just like a pretty, it's more entertainment. It's like used oftenly as a tool for excitement and a thrill and things like that. It's like swashbuckling. So like in this case, because of kind of the tone you're setting and kind of questioning, you set a tone for like questioning a lot of like assumptions about things. I do like that you take the time to like focus on that. Yeah, like you just watch someone die. Even if it isn't defense, it's not like something that you just get over. It's a traumatizing event. Why just enacting someone's death and or witnessing someone's death is a deeply, deeply traumatic thing to witness as a human being. So I appreciate that. Chapter 18, An Eye for an Eye. Great title. Cicadas and crickets filled the dark forest. A young man with sandy blonde hair and a furrowed brow scoured the ground for dried sticks. He adjusted the bundle under his arm as he leaned down and grabbed a branch, putting his foot against the middle of it. The snap seemed to echo off the trees with an eerie reverberation. The young man added both sticks to his bundle of kindling, the twigs clattering like bones as he struggled not to drop them. At his side, the older man, whose gray hair grew on his face rather than his head, was leaned against the tree, flexing his leg. Whoa, Ghostly must have had a stroke. It's fine. Don't worry about it, Ghostly. We all do it. We all do it. Don't beat yourself up. You all right, Friar? The young man asked. Quite fine, Cal, my boy. Quite fine, Cal, my boy, he said through a wince. That little old merchant had more bite in him than I anticipated. He seemed downright floored at the state of his storeroom, Cal nodded with wide eyes, though his attention quickly turned to the camp in the distance, the fire casting creeping shadows down the trees. Though, I still think Boss was madder, he breathed. Friar pushed himself off the tree, his eyes following the boys. He shook his head. What was bad has most certainly gotten worse. That is for sure, he sighed. Should we go check on him? Spouting profanities usually makes him feel better, Cal asked quietly, his eyes still focused on the camp behind the trees. Fryer rubbed the bridge of his nose like he was about to deal with a petulant child. We can't avoid it forever, and we already had enough kindling for a witch hunt. Cal's shoulders tense. If I approach him, you'll pull him off me, right? If he will not unhand you himself, Fryer nodded. Okay. Cal forced a deep breath, his smooth brow crinkling with determination. He forced one foot in front of the other, knowing if he paused, he wouldn't step again. Past the trees into the clearing, the camp was small. 3 sleep sacks littered the ground, loosely surrounding the fire. Directly around the campfire was a log, and atop that was a man with messed auburn hair. He clutched a blood-soaked rag to his right eye, his other staring into the crackling flames. Cal swallowed as he steadily approached, his steps slow and deliberate as though he was scared of spooking a deer. Rorik's one good gaze never strayed from the charring, glowing embers at his feet. Hey, boss, Cal said softly. He attempted to upturn his voice, but it broke immediately. Rorik didn't even blink. Cal swallowed as he inched closer until he was just beside him. What was that look of contemplation? Ghostly just needed to exist. Needed it to exist. So she could move on. No. That wasn't contemplation of the trash. That was something else. I was looking at off screen. Ghostly. I was reading a message that popped up. You're fine. That was not for you. That was a notification that I quickly had to read and make sure that my life wasn't ending. Okay. Hey, boss, Cal said softly. He attempted to upturn his voice, but it broke immediately. Rorik didn't even blink. Cal swallowed as he inched closer until he was just beside him. Sir? He said in a shaky whisper. Yes, Cal? Rorik demanded through his teeth, his attention still transfixed on the flames. Ghostly freelancer. No joke. A cold sweat prickled Cal's spine. He shifted the bundle of sticks in his arm as he squirmed on his feet. How are you holding up, sir? He stumbled over his words. A smile that had held no joy tugged past his teeth. Well, dear boy, my demon escaped me for the second time, and this little wench managed to blind me in one eye. His head turned in a smooth motion to face Cal. His good eye burned like hellfire into Cal's soul. It was a searing stare the boy had never felt before, and he found himself paralyzed. How do you think I'm doing? He shouted, standing from his log. Cal's instinct kicked him backwards as he collapsed back on his hands. The sticks clattered around him as he clumsily stumbled back. Not good, sir, he responded without thinking. A cold laugh that was not at all infectious clawed up Rorik's throat. No, not good, Cal, but chin up, boy. He stepped over him and leaned down on his knees. Because the demon and that little whore are going to be so much worse when I'm done with them. With them both, he beamed. Cal felt his breath escape him like his soul, his throat closing around his heart. So I take it His Majesty will not be getting a demonic enforcer, Fryer asked from the tree line, leaning against the thick trunk, his tired, wrinkled eyes watching unbothered. Oh, certainly not, Rorik laughed like it was obvious. I was going to kill him the moment we got into the tunnels. All he's done now is guarantee prolonged suffering before. I hated all of it. It's fine, Ghostly. You don't have to hate it. It's fine. I mean, he's being a monster. Hey, what do we got here? Hello. Just popping in and dropping links here, I see. All right. No, let me do it. And let me not... Stop doing that. Why are you... Come on, stop it. No. No, not 11 days. I want banned forever. Banned for... Wait. No. No! God damn it. Don't want. AI generated fic. Don't care. Alright. Ghostly, get him! Get him! Get him! Alright. Where was I? Before it took me 5 minutes to make the band thing work. Let's see here. Certainly not. Okay. Prolonged suffering. Right. That's where we are. Cowl's eyes grew. You were gonna kill him? What about the girl? Rorik shook his head, his awful smile an unsettlingly unchanged feature to his face. Naive little boy. Of course I was going to kill him. Do you really think I would give him another chance after he ran the first time? Our king will be pleased enough with just the head of the demon. As for the girl... He walked beside Cal, his back straight and hand loosely gesturing at his side. I would have gotten whatever use of her I could before I finally learned what the inside of that pretty throat looked like. That's Jesus Christ. It's hardcore. Yoof. Cowl's hands trembled under him. His whole frame shuddered with racked breaths as he watched Rorik look off with the glee of a madman. He stammered out the words that welled from the morbid need to know. And now? Cal regretted that question the moment he saw the flicker in Rorik's eyes. It was like nothing the young man had ever fathomed, each an undying, unquenchable thirst for misery and torment. It was an unbidden lust for pain. It was a fantasy for torture. Nice, okay. There was a wrathful wildfire behind his stare, and Cal knew that only death would stop it. Nice. Big fan. I'm a big fan of that, Ghostly. It's dark. It's very dark, but I'm a big fan of that. Been putting together my planner and getting ready to start a new project. Go Bree! Next month, my head hurts. Just took an Advil, drink a cup of tea. Big fan of darkness, yeah. Aren't we all? I mean, I am. Big fan of this. Go get it, Bree! Now, the word escaped him, though as a laugh as light, through a laugh as light popcorn. When I get my hands on her, I will make her scream until her vocal cords tear. Jesus. Cal felt the blood drain from his face, his ears starting to ring around the background noise. Come now, Rick. His Highness gave simple instructions. Friar began. No. Rorik snapped. His fiery gaze turned to the older man as his smile fell. The king will never know of her. She will die with us. Do you understand? He shouted. Cal was practically a puddle on the ground. Friar simply grit his teeth in response. Very well. Rorik cracked his neck as he turned back to the fire. We will achieve this mission, or we will die trying. Spittle sprayed through his own words. His hand that clenched the bloody rag tore from his face and threw it into the fire. We will not return home until I have had my retribution. I will have the demon's head in my hand, and... Rorik turned back to face his associates, his shadow sprawling across the camp. Dried blood caked to the right side of his face, collecting around his eye. A crusted scratch racked down from his eyebrow to the top of his cheekbone, going through the parts of the eyelid. She will be mine. Okay. And that is the end of Act 1 of Ghostly's massive road fantasy story. Well done, Ghostly. Well done. And look at that. Look at that. We did it, and we did it with 50 seconds on the clock. Bam. I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to toot my own horn here. That's pretty badass. I feel like I almost nailed the timing on that. Goddamn right I did. Anyway, but no, well done, Ghostly. Congrats. It's a massive achievement. Well done. I was giggling from you saying big fan of Darkness. I mean, yeah, aren't we all? But I am. I mean, writing a book about a serial killer. Yeah, I was like, Brie, you're writing some dark stuff, so this is your wheelhouse. But well done, Ghostly. So, what I have got. Let's see here. You're definitely going. I can see the pieces moving into place. I do like this weird. All right, everybody, and that is the end of the timer for everybody coming back. If you were writing and working on your words, I hope that the words treated you well and that you were able to get any and all progress done. Any progress is progress. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm going to just toss out some thoughts here after having read the end of Act 1 for Ghostly. And that'll be the end of stream. So, yeah, Ghostly, I think pretty much. Yeah, nope, I got to get ready and go to a Halloween party. I think the biggest thing for me is I think, let's see here, the action scene is probably what, in my opinion, needs the most work. I think this needs the most work in terms of just my personal. You don't have to obviously do this, but my personal opinion is that the action is stronger when we focus primarily on Buttercup, and we have Damascus's sequence take over, kind of in the periphery, just to kind of accent maybe that if they're responding, is they're kind of like responding. Or like reacting to what the other is doing. But that's just what I would do personally. In my case, I think it's more just I would lean more into what you're comfortable with in terms of action writing and just go more emotional, more visceral, and not worry too much about you having to be like hyper descriptive in your action. Because I actually think it's way stronger when you lean away from that. I think it's more effective for the type of story you're telling. The scene after, I'm not gonna lie, the only thing about it is the stitching. This is just because it's a trope. That's it. That's the only thing that I'm kind of like, okay, I've seen this. But the way that you build the tension between them in the first part of that chapter, I think is very good, and I appreciate that a lot. I think, and you take your time with it too. I think my only note there was I would like if possible, if it makes sense stylistically while you're pacing it, to like lean more into what Buttercup is feeling or thinking at this moment, because we do see it very much and I know that that's because from Damascus's point of view, the tension, a lot of the tension is coming from him not knowing how she's feeling or reacting and kind of jumping to the conclusion that he's a monster, or at least like, plays into his own character struggles with like guilt and feeling like he is a monster, or like beyond, love or compassion or anything like that. But I would like a little bit more in Buttercup's headspace. I just kind of, even after kind of she asks, and they kind of, even when they what might be interesting is even when they reconnect, when she kind of softens on him, I would almost be interested to see how Buttercup feels as she's stitching Damascus. Just something a little bit extra. That's like my only note there, is I think I just want to be in Buttercup's head a little bit more at some point in this chapter. Honestly, now that I think about it, like just talking through it, I think it would be, because I don't want you to like eliminate the tension of the first half of the chapter, I would do it after. And then you're being nice to people like me who are curmudgeons and kind of like gonna be all like, I know this trope, I've seen this before. Because then if I'm in her head and there's like complex emotions processing while she is like helping stitch the wound and stuff like that, and like, and this kind of like cute moment where they give each other a nickname, and that's kind of like, that's also a very good like simple clue to let Damascus be like, it's not okay but it's better. And I liked how you ended that emotionally. So I kind of like that. But I do want to be a little bit more into the headspace. Eye for an Eye, definitely a great little. I also kind of like that you're kind of doing like these guys are like the evil like Robin Hood merry band of guys. Like they're out camping, just kind of doing things. I don't know. It's just funny. They're like kind of. You're already starting to switch my opinion of Cowl and Friar. You're making them entertaining, which is smart, and you do have a tendency to do, which I appreciate, Ghostly, where you lean into them not being just fully. I mean, they're fun to read. They don't seem like the worst guys here. Rorik seems like a monster, but Cowl and Friar definitely kind of they got a vibe. They got a much more natural vibe. So yeah, you enjoy those two. They're definitely there for the win. So you definitely end. He gets a little like and this is just my taste. So take it or leave it. You this is your. I know you're kind of pulling from Princess Bride. So take with it as well. But I tend to when men are when villains are shouting dramatically into a fire, uh, I just find that a little much. I always tend to think less is more when it comes to your villains, depending on how creepy you want them to be. So that the only thing is like the ending monologue here. I do like the switch, like she will be mine. This like power trip he's going on. I do like at least what you get across in the dialogue. It's just a little theatrical for my tastes. But this is a me thing, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. If that's tonally what you're going for, then you nailed it. So take that with a pinch of salt. But other than that, Ghostly, I can't state how often I enjoy this story. I enjoy you just hanging with the characters, so I appreciate it, and I'm very happy that you're letting us read it on stream. But yeah, well done, Ghostly, and I know that this was just from last when we did the Ghostly celebration, but congrats again on 4 years straight of writing every day, not just for this project, but for a lot of the other things you were working on too. So you are a titan of the words, as we often say here. So well done, Ghostly. Okay, let me go catch up on chat really quick. Oh, what am I dressing up as? Ghostly is correct. I am dressing up as a hipster indie filmmaker because I could not afford, once again, while I could not afford a costume. I do have an Ava Unit 1 onesie, which I was debating wearing during my birthday stream. So we'll see if it's cold enough, I'll wear it. But I do have an Evangelion Unit 1 onesie that is very silly, that I might wear. But only if because it's very hot. It's a very hot outfit to wear, so it depends on the temperature. But yeah, unfortunately I don't have any costumes. Originally I wanted to do Sanko from Die Dark, but that might have to weigh for next year. We'll see. I kind of did that. Okay, yeah, fair. Appreciate it. You're too kind. Wait, let me. Oh yes, Ghostly. Pay me the tort coins. And then yes. Make me richer. All right. Anyway. This is how you know I've become capitalist pig, Wildlight. Oh no, is this poverty? Oh, Ghostly, have you overspent? But well done, Ghostly. Yeah, don't save. Oh wow, you're in the single digits, really? Oh my goodness. Oh wow, you were like you're usually the one who has all the coins. Alrighty, but for everybody out there, we are gonna call it. I have to run. It is time for me to go and have a little bit of a Halloween party celebration / early birthday party. So I'm gonna go do that. But as always, I love you all. It's a blast to get to hang out with you all. Always love getting to hang and read your work. So if anybody else got work out there, I do read it. It's okay. I planned on this day being my last horror for a long time. Yeah, of course. I will have fun. Let us see who we're gonna go say hello to. All right, we're gonna go. Oh, it looks like Coffee just popped on, so we'll dip in and say Coffee. for everybody out there who wants to keep on writing. But as always, Bree, thank you. Take care. Have a great time with your Halloween, the rest of your weekend. I'm not quite sure what the stream schedule is going to be next week. Probably streaming on Wednesday. Kind of like an early pre-birthday stream. Patio Skunk, cheers, as always. And we will see you all sometime next week. But take care of yourselves, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others. And yeah, man, keep on writing. Keep it up. You're all talented, beautiful people. I didn't realize you were an October birthday like me. I'm a Halloween baby. So I'm off to do the spooky birthday. So all right, take care everybody. We'll see you next time.